Good morning. Welcome to the Pierre Mendès France Center at the French Ministry for the Economy, Finance and Recovery for this event of the Pact for Impact Alliance. My name is Frédéric Bailly. I am the director of the SOS Group, a major French social economy group, and I'm very pleased to be taking part alongside SOS Consulting in the Secretariat of the Pact for Impact Alliance. Now, Olivia Grégoire, our host, was supposed to be making some introductory remarks, the Secretary of State for the Social Solidarity and Responsible Economy. However, unfortunately, over the past 2 years, we've learned that sometimes unexpected events happen, and unfortunately, this has been the case today. The Secretary of State tested positive for coronavirus yesterday. However, she was determined to take part, so let's listen to her video.
Good morning, everyone. I'm deeply pleased to welcome you today in Paris and to meet once again all the members who have been very active in the Pact for Impact Alliance for 3 years now. It's a real pleasure to see that year after year, this alliance is growing and is developing new projects. As you know, I'm unfortunately welcoming you today in a very worrying international context, the context of war at the gates of our Europe, which tends to make us relativize on all other current issues. Therefore, I would like to start by having a thought to all the Ukrainians, both civilian and military, who are fighting and suffering today. We are also gradually coming out from a global health crisis that has made us aware once again of our interdependence between countries, between continents, and that has highlighted the fragility of our societies, stressing inequalities between countries, but also between citizens. This crisis has underlined the imperative need for resilience in our economic and societal models in order to ensure the sustainable development of our societies and to overcome the next crisis, whether environmental, social, economic, or military ones. In this context, we are here today to talk about the international cooperation on the social and solidarity economy. I'm not going to lie. Despite of all the importance I attach to it, it is obviously not the miracle answer to all the problems we face. However, I believe that the social and solidarity economy as an economic model that promotes a human-driven way of organization and production of goods and services, and that also respects both environment and society, can make a major contribution to the resilience of our societies and to the sustainable growth. Indeed, thanks to the proximity approach that characterizes the social and solidarity economy, a strong economy and social fabric can be created first at local level and then ensure a solid basis for resilience at national level. Therefore, it's important to exchange together on ways to develop this economic model at local, national, and international levels. This is the purpose of the Pact for Impact Alliance, which aims to bring together public authorities, whether they are international organizations, governments, representatives, or local authorities on the one hand, and social and solidarity economy structures and network on the other hand. There are already many regional networks active in the world, which will be given the floor with great interest this morning. The Pact for Impact Alliance was created in 2019 under the impetus of France, but I'm very pleased to note that since then, many states have shown their willingness to join it and to commit to carrying out projects together and develop a social and solidarity economy in their countries, but also on a global scale. During the first years of the alliance, we have structured a large network of stakeholders who met around 3 working groups. These 3 working groups aimed at elaborating the status and the governance of the alliance and at discussing specific topics for which it's important to share good practices. Later this morning, we will come back to the results of those working groups, but I already would like to thank all the participants in the working groups for the work and their investment on this important project. As for the next steps of the alliance, and considering the European and international political context that is very favorable to the development of social and solidarity economy, we would like to give a new impetus to major projects that have been planning for several years. Indeed, at the end of last year, the European Union not only listed the social economy as one of the 14 key industrial ecosystems to ensure the resilience of the economy, but also published on December a major action plan for the social economy. This action plan recalls the importance of the social economy to ensure social cohesion and lists a whole series of proposals for action in different sectors such as public procurement, taxation, financing, regional cooperation, agricultural policy, or communication. Following this action plan, I organized in Paris last month a council of European ministers in charge of social economy to discuss the concrete implementation of these proposals which were given by the plan. 23 member states took part in this council in Paris on the 17th of February and showed a common willingness, a strong willingness to act at national level and to adopt a recommendation in the Council of European Union in 2023 on the framework conditions for the development of a strong social economy in Europe. At international level, in June 2022, the International Labour Conference will hold a discussion on decent work and the social and solidarity economy, which is a sign of a shared interest in the world for this issue and of a favorable moment to move forward. We will come back to this during this morning. In this very promising international context, the Pact for Impact Alliance intends, beyond the share of good practices that naturally goes within the creation of a global network, to reach a recognition of the specificity of social and solidarity economy, both at the International Labour Organization and the United Nations. These are 2 very ambitious objectives, but I really think that they are achievable in the coming years if the support for these resolutions by social economic structures, experts, states is strong and structured enough. The Pact for Impact Alliance proposes to help coordinate these efforts and to support these 2 projects thanks to the role of its permanent secretariat and the contributions of all stakeholders, whom I thank once again for being so involved, so active. We've laid down together a good foundation to cooperate with a clarified governance, with clear objectives in a new coalition manifesto, and I hope that the work can now continue and lead to concrete results very soon. I would like to thank very much all the speakers, dear friends, speakers who are participating in this major event, and I sincerely wish us a success in our project.
Voilà, merci beaucoup, Madame la
Thank you very much, Minister, for those welcome remarks. You recalled that in the context of the COVID-19 crisis and the recent publication of the IPCC, as well as the war in Ukraine, are all challenges that social and solidarity economy stakeholders can respond to in an effective manner. In addition, the Secretariat has demonstrated its resilience in the face of crises. However, despite major progress in many countries who are represented here, the recognition of social and solidarity economy is still a challenge. Pact for Impact aims to create a global alliance for the recognition and the fostering of the social and solidarity economy. And it's within this context that our action, based on the values of respect and collaboration, are even more important to fight for equality and to offer systemic responses to achieve the SDGs. Since the first international summit of Pact for Impact, which several of us took part in at the initiative of France in July 2019, on the other side of the Seine River at the Quai Branly Museum, our alliance has been structured based on partnerships with events from Paris to New York and Strasbourg. In the context of the pandemic, of course, we've had to adjust, and therefore some of these events have taken place virtually. Today, we're joining each other in a hybrid format. In the first part of this session, we'll be discussing the major achievements of our alliance over the past year. These will be presented to you by the 4 ambassadors who are representing us today. A charter for commitment as well as a coalition manifesto have been drawn up and shared with the members of the Alliance. You should have received these documents. There are over 30 signatories, including 5 states who have signed these documents. I invite you to join the other signatories and the participants in this meeting should have received the document, which you can sign if you wish to do so, but I'll go into further detail about this later on. As I mentioned, a number of members have taken part in the work of the Alliance, as was recalled by Madam Secretary of State. Now I'd like to give the floor to our 4 ambassadors. One of them is here with us, and the 3 others are connected on Zoom, and they'll be presenting the outcomes of the 4 thematic working groups, which have been carrying out very meaningful work over the past few years. Here we have the representative of the financing of social and solidarity economy, Xavier Ploquin, who is the senior associate and director of Meridian France, which works in Africa. You're also piloting a project on the financing of the social and solidarity economy in Paris. So what are the outcomes of this working group? Thank you very much, Frédéric. Good afternoon, ministers, ladies and gentlemen. In 2021, we have been working fully virtually on this working group, and we've been compiling good practices and financing mechanisms for the solidarity and social economy. As you know, it has a very broad reach with philanthropic groups, but also different types of SSE organizations, such as insurance, mutual health insurance enterprises. So what we've tried to do is to have as broad a reach as possible with a broad-reaching approach. So we've been looking at philanthropy, loans, donors, participatory financing, and impact financing as well. We've been looking at how we can help public government to support these companies. These enterprises are often small and do not have very strong financing mechanisms which allow them to access funding. So we've come up with four main pillars that public authorities could use. First is regulation, which can involve taxation, access to quasi-equity. The aim is to define what the social and solidarity economy is, and that will allow us to make progress in the other fields. The second recommendation is public procurement, which allows public authorities to have access to services, but also to foster a values-based economy. The third pillar is creating support and networks. Often these social enterprises are small, and therefore creating networks and support systems allows these companies to better access financing. And the fourth pillar is enabling access to private financing, because of course public finance cannot address all of the issues at hand. So there are several mechanisms. For example, in France, there are the 90-10 funds, which have contributed greatly to the SSE economy. There are also ways in which to mobilize private financing through impact financing, for example. And in conclusion, I would say that impact financing aims to foster financing by sacrificing part of its financial yields to favor solidarity and social objectives. And I think this is important because the social and solidarity economy uses impact contracts, for example, to achieve tangible, measurable results, to have more specific reporting. So I think that impact financing is something that will allow financial players and players of the social and solidarity economy to come together. Thank you very much, Xavier. I think hopefully we'll be able to discuss this in greater detail during the Q&A session at the end. Now I'll turn to the screen and we'll hear from London, where Anita Ahuja, the founder and Director General of Conserve India, as well as Catalyst 2030, who will be discussing the second thematic guide produced by the working groups on the ecological transition. Anita, if you're with us, how does the social and solidarity economy contribute to the ecological and energy transition?
Est-ce qu'Anita est avec nous?
Is Anita with us?
Je n'ai pas l'impression. Alors, ce sont les aléas effectivement du...
Seem to be the case. Unfortunately, there may be some technical issues. We'll try to connect with her. But now perhaps we could move on to the overview of the third guide. We hope to be able to join Pauline Ifa in Cameroon, a major player in the social and solidarity economy in Cameroon. Madame Pauline Ifa is the African representative for the SSE Forum International, who will be discussing a cross-cutting and essential issue in the social and solidarity economy projects that we're undertaking. That is gender equality. Pauline, you have an important message to convey to us.
Frédéric, bonjour tout le monde.
Yes, hello, Frédéric. Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here with you to discuss the guide that we have drafted, mainly online. As the previous speaker said, we have done a lot of the work online, and we wanted to highlight the problems related to gender, problems that women are faced with. They are classic problems that do not necessarily, that do affect women, generally speaking. And we know that in this work we have mentioned tools and different mechanisms that can be harnessed to be able to make a more inclusive economy for women. And As it relates to the message that Mr. Bailly mentioned, I thought that it would be a good idea here to recognize that women are those who bring us back to the human reality of the economy. When women organize, they are always able to change things. I should remind you of the example from Canada because we talked a lot about using examples and different models. And Canada did the Bread and Roses walk and saw that their social economy emerged. In Africa, since the first edition of the Pact for Impact Alliance, I think we met women, African women specifically, but there were women from all geographical areas of Africa, that is to say the Maghreb and from Southern Africa. And we decided to base ourselves on a model which is recognized today and which allows for exchanges between us. And we have done a lot of work. The Minister of Development in Togo sent a delegation to take inspiration from the model that is currently being implemented for the social economy in Cameroon. We have Benin, and I think there are many other women that are following us. And I think that it is important that we promote this construction of the social economy, because if we wish to change the condition of women, this guide enables us to do this. And in the guide, we must recognize activities carried out by women. And we should take these activities out of the informal economy. I often give the example of my aunt who sells donuts on the roadside. It's the same as a teacher. However, women like my aunt are placed in the informal economy. That means that their work is not recognized. And the social and solidarity economy provides us with a possibility to recognize the great work that women do. At the moment, that is not the case. And that is the objective of this guide, to provide examples that we can take inspiration from in order to develop this more human-centered economy. Thank you very much, Pauline. Stay with us, of course, for the next part of this session. I hope that I will be able to give you the floor later on. We are now going to move on to another great figure of the SSE, and we're going to turn now to the Netherlands, where we will hear from Jerry Billy-Moria, who is a social entrepreneur, co-founder, and dare I say, the main person behind Catalyst 2030. She is going to talk about support for social entrepreneurship. Can you tell us how social entrepreneurship contributes to the development of a more sustainable economic model, and what support does our economy need today?
Thanks, Frederick. And welcome to all of you in these challenging times. First of all, Catalyst 2030 is a network of social entrepreneurs for social entrepreneurs by social entrepreneurs. Frederick and Grupo SOS were the co-founders of this. So we are very happy to be part of Pact for Impact. The fourth premiere, which has been created in this by Pact for Impact, which we have worked on online, is basically the support for social entrepreneurs and what we can contribute. In this premiere, we have looked at 5 major points. The first point we've looked at is what are the legal and regulatory reforms which are essential to take the sector forward. And I think that's something which is very important, because at the country level, for the sector to move, we need to have the right legal policy environment which is there. The second thing, and I won't go into it much more because it was talked about earlier, is about access to markets and finance and how we are able to take all of that forward. The third is that the sector in itself needs a certain amount of upskilling, and we need a strong culture for the whole sector. So that's something which we have also looked at. Something which Catalyst is very active, and we've been also talking to Pact for Impact to do, is also look at how we are able to create local level networks of social entrepreneurs. Because if we have that, we can influence the culture, we can influence access to finance, we can influence regulatory reforms. So this is something which we are working on very strongly, is entrepreneur-led networks at the local level. And then the last but not the least is measuring the impact. Because as you've seen and as has been discussed, if we are able to prove the importance of the sector, we will be able to have much more progress taking forward. Thank you, Frederick, in my 2 minutes. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Jero. Et c'est vrai, la mesure de l'impact est un enjeu essentiel.
That is true. Measuring the impact is essential in order to demonstrate the strength and the advantage of our sector. We're all working on that, and I hope that we can come back to this later on. I'm not sure if Anita Auja has been able to join us. I'm just hearing that she has not. Oh, yes, she is here. She is here. So we're going to give her the floor. She is in London. We can give Anita the floor. Anita, welcome. We're happy to see you here. We worked together a few years ago in India. We worked together, and you are, as I said, a co-founder and director general of Conserve India. You are also you're an Ashoka Fellow and a member of the Catalyst 2030 movement, and you're going to talk to us today about the second thematic guide, this time on the ecological transition and the essential links with the social and solidarity economy.
Thank you, Frederick. And thank you for inviting me to this very important event, which is dedicated to the Pact for Impact Alliance. Climate change, I think we know it's happening. And there's really no serious scientist in the world today who can deny the fact that climate change is happening. And we are witnessing so many events around us. And so while we know that climate change is for real, we also know that the global race is on for innovations. There's a huge chance for us for green technologies, whether we are talking about waste or energy or any of the sectors today. All the countries are innovating. And this is one race which, as a social entrepreneur, I'm so happy to witness in my lifetime. I would also like to talk about Mr. Modi's commitment and India's commitment to this agenda. And we know that all over the world, many countries, the leadership is taking the lead. But I really feel the leaders today, the political leaders, if it has to become the goal, the kind of circular economy that we would like to achieve, they have to have a larger vision. They have to be more risky. And whether it's a democracy or any kind of political system, I feel that besides the political system, which needs to take the risk, we as people also need to take the risks. And then only we'll be able to achieve our goal. We have to align our growth, climate, and politics. This is very important. Secondly, we also have to internalize the climate risk for business and economy and kickstart a green economic transformation. I really want to put the achievement of green, more resource efficient, low carbon growth at the heart of the vision of this pact for which we all are here. So I would really like to appeal that climate change, we have so many countries who have come together. Let us all together try and see that we are able to achieve our SDG goals and climate change goals as soon as possible. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Anita, et merci à l'ensemble.
Thank you very much, Anita, and thank you to all of our 4 ambassadors. And thank you for your very active participation in the Alliance. So please stay with us for the remainder of the panel. And so I would like to invite you once again to sign the thematic key guide, which is the foundation that our alliance is going to work on in the future. And we are going to now take a further look with our next three panelists. We will hear about a roadmap and ambitious and renewed objectives that we are proposing. So a new momentum is currently underway with a refocusing of the alliance in favor of the social solidarity economy, with a clear objective to implement collectively with all of the stakeholders and the members of the alliance to bring about a project in which we can recognize the social and solidarity economy and have this recognized by the United Nations. To show us the way for the second part of the panel, we have three speakers, and I'm going to turn to Geneva this time. We're going to continue our visit of Europe and the world, where we have Vic van Vuren, Director of the Enterprises Department of the ILO and President of the UN Interagency Task Force on Social and Solidarity Economy. Vic, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Absolument, nous pouvons vous entendre. Bienvenue parmi nous, Vic. Je le disais.
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome, Vic. I was saying, so you hope to support the adoption of a resolution by the United Nations to recognize the SSE as an important actor or essential actor for sustainable development. Can you tell us in just a few words, where is the work of your interagency task force, and how do you see a collaboration in particular with Pact for Impact with a view for this draft resolution?
Thank you very much. I'd like to put this all into perspective in addressing the point of a UN resolution. You know, as we exit from one COVID pandemic and enter another pandemic, which is self-made, a pandemic called the war pandemic, it is sad that the value of the life of a human being is ranked below the attainment of power. And I'd like to start with a quote about solidarity from Nelson Mandela. I'm from South Africa, so I always love quoting Nelson Mandela, where he said, "The values of human solidarity that once drove our quest for a humane society seem to have been replaced or are being threatened by a crass materialism and pursuit of social goals of instant gratification. One of the challenges of our time, without being pietistic or moralistic, is to reinstill in the consciousness of our people that sense of human solidarity, of being in the world for one another and because of and through others." And I end the quote. Now, these pandemics that I've just mentioned, the COVID and the wars, have exposed many fragilities in our economies and societies and deepened existing inequalities. The starting of yet another war among too many others around us, often forgotten, is threatening the well-being of mankind. Today, these words sound truer than ever. Now, this is the space and the time for the entry of the social and solidarity economy to scale up. I say over and over that the SSE is the world's best kept secret. Now, the UN Task Force on Social and Solidarity Economy, which represents 18 UN agencies and OECD as members and 13 civil society organizations, have put together a joint work plan with three main priority objectives. And the first one is mainstreaming and enhancing the SSE international dimension and profile. We are observing a momentum around SSE, and today's event is proof of it. But at the global level, there are some pieces of the SSE puzzle still missing. And one of them is a UN resolution on the SSE, which will strengthen the global platform of the SSE and facilitate it to be mainstreamed into regional and national strategies. That is not happening on a large scale. And that is why this piece of the puzzle becomes so important. We are not nearly reaching the potential that SSE can play in attaining the SDGs. Some governments are leading the process around a UN resolution, and we applaud France and those governments who are working towards the tabling of a resolution at the General Assembly of the UN. We welcome this in the UN Task Force, and we will be working to provide the technical backstopping and advice as to how this can be attained. The manifesto of the Pact for Impact Alliance calls for such an important step, as we heard from the Honourable Olivia Grégoire in the opening statement. A group of leading countries will, however, be crucial to take this to the next step. And we need to take the time out to do this, because once that piece of the puzzle comes into place, it will help achieve a lot more towards the attainment of the SDGs. This will lead to more strategies at national and regional levels, and it will enable bodies like the European Commission to take their work, which is amazing, far beyond into other parts of the world. The African Union are also working on an action plan. So at the international level, we see this as a turning point, and one that will be constantly supporting. In closing, I'd like to mention also the International Labour Conference, which will be holding a general discussion on SSE this year. And there, once again, we've got another global platform that is bringing to the fore the importance of the social economy. The future is now, and values such as solidarity and respect for the planet should be at the core of it if we want to ensure a better future for all and for our children. And I've got a lot of children, so I've got a lot of interest here. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Vic. Effectivement, vous l'avez rappelé, c'est vraiment un travail.
Thank you very much, Vic. As you said, this is collective and collaborative work that we require. And this is the call that we are sending today within the Pact for Impact Alliance, to the members of the Alliance and to those who wish to join the Alliance to support this initiative. So that was a great segue that you set up for me, Vic, and I'm going to now move to Anoucha Carver, who is the government delegate for the French government at ILO. Can you talk to us about how and what we can expect in 2022 from the next International Labour Conference from the ILO? Thank you very much, Madam Minister, ministers, ladies and gentlemen. I would first and foremost like to thank Olivia Grégoire and all of the members of the Alliance and the Permanent Secretary of Pact for Impact for this invitation, which allows us to open the debate by giving it a more perspective and global dimension. The ILO was created more than 30 years ago and works exclusively in a three-party format with representatives from governments, employers, and workers. Its main activity consists in producing standards in the form of binding international treaties, what we call international conventions, international labor conventions, or in the form of non-binding recommendations. We also work to control ratifications in member states. The objective is to build a shared legal framework to promote what we call decent work, a notion which encompasses four pillars: access to employment, social protection, social dialogue, and the respect of fundamental work rules. The prohibition of forced work and child work, non-discrimination, and the right to health and work security. During the last board of directors in March 2021, the ILO decided to inscribe the SSE into its agenda. In June 2022, there will be a general discussion which may lead to conclusions that will in turn lead to normative action. This is the culmination of mobilization in France. Over the last 10 years, the French government and the executive secretary of the ILO have developed a very close collaboration on this theme and have carried out joint actions. This led to the publication in March 2020 of a flagship study on the contribution of the SSE and solidarity funding. This study will be, without a doubt, a significant resource for our political discussions in June 2022. And this also illustrates the complex links between the ILO, its three-party members, and the SSE. But why has there been such a delay? Well, first of all, the links between employer organizations and the members who are members of the ILO are complex. The cooperative movements and work representative bodies have been represented in a number of countries such as the United Kingdom, France, Belgium, and Canada. In other countries, social enterprises and cooperatives have often been confronted with a dilemma when they have to choose to defend employees or to be represented in three-party social dialogue. Some of them defend employers. That's the case in Vietnam, for example, given their status, whereas others refuse this binary division and refuse and seek to revise this format. The ILO has therefore seen diverse positions from its members. The notion of solidarity only entered into our minds very recently. And so we can ask ourselves, how does the SSC, how is it benefits from such a much better examination by the ILO? And well, debates about the SSC are not just limited to cooperatives. The social and solidarity economy can be useful in the 2030 agenda and for obtaining the SDGs. A socially inclusive response, increasing resilience of our societies. This has led to a growing consensus in all countries of the world on the need to ensure that we have a new social contract with greater participation of citizens and greater decision-making on all continents. Because as we see every day at the ILO, the SSC is not just about the countries of the North. For 20 years, the number of countries who have elaborated measures in favor of the SSC has increased and continues to increase. Legal cases pertaining to the SSC have been adopted by a number of governments in Asia, in Latin America, and Africa. Public policies pertaining to the SSC are currently being drafted. Ministers and ministerial departments for the social and solidarity economy have been created. And the general discussion in June 2022 at the ILO should allow us to bring about a universal definition of the social and solidarity economy and to define also the values and the principles associated with the SSC. We should also be able to provide guidelines for member states who wish to implement a social and solidarity economy and to promote the SSC globally. Through this, the ILO will have a decisive role in this field. France will continue to provide its contribution to this discussion through a collective work of the countries of the EU. Thank you very much.
Vous évoquiez l'importance de mettre en place des cadres réglementaires au niveau des pays. Alors, je voudrais saluer, puisque on m'informe que ça vient d'arriver à l'instant même, la signature du manifeste de coalition d'un nouveau pays. Nous étions 5 au début de cette réunion. Il y en a désormais 6, puisque le Sénégal vient de rejoindre la France, l'Argentine, l'Équateur, la Côte d'Ivoire et le Cameroun en tant que signataires du manifeste de coalition. J'espère qu'à la fin de cette matinée, nous aurons encore plus de signataires. Et je vais désormais, pour clore ce panel, me tourner vers un soutien inconditionnel de l'économie sociale et solidaire depuis de nombreuses années. Antonella Noia, vous êtes chef de l'unité économie et innovation sociale à l'OCDE. Bienvenue parmi nous. Alors Antonella, qu'en est-il aujourd'hui de la coopération internationale en matière de SS? Quel est le rôle de l'OCDE et que pouvez-vous nous indiquer sur la manière dont votre organisation entend contribuer à la reconnaissance de l'économie sociale et solidaire?
Merci Frédéric pour cet accueil chaleureux. Je suis ravie d'être présente à cette manifestation très importante. L'OCDE, comme vous l'avez dit, a été assez pionnier parmi les organisations internationales sur les sujets liés à l'économie sociale, l'entrepreneuriat social et l'innovation sociale, car nous travaillons sur ces thèmes-là depuis plus que 20 ans. Quel est notre rôle institutionnel? Est justement celui d'accompagner les pays membres de l'OCDE dans la définition et dans la mise en œuvre de leurs politiques publiques. Et nous le faisons aussi en matière d'économie sociale et solidaire. Et nous le faisons en travaillant en étroit contact avec les gouvernements au niveau national et infranational. Donc, on peut dire qu'on a un rôle assez important dans l'accompagnement de l'action publique. Et comment on se positionne dans la coopération internationale? Comme mon ami Vic Van Vuren le mentionnait tout à l'heure, nous faisons partie de plusieurs réseaux internationaux qui sont des réseaux multiparties prenantes, et ça c'est très important parce que du coup on crée des enceintes où les différents acteurs de l'économie sociale peuvent dialoguer. Donc nous sommes la seule agence la seule organisation internationale qui n'appartient pas au système des États-Unis à avoir été invitée à rejoindre la Task Force des Nations Unies. Nous participons aussi au groupe mis en place par la Commission européenne, le groupe d'experts sur l'économie sociale et les entreprises sociales, et nous sommes régulièrement invités par des réseaux d'acteurs avec qui nous entretenons un dialogue constant, parce que c'est important que dans notre réflexion, nous nous nourrissons aussi de ce qui nous vient des acteurs de terrain. Donc, en plus de ça, et je pense que c'est notre première fonction dans la coopération internationale, nous sommes initiateurs justement des dialogues d'abord avec les pays de l'OCDE, mais pas seulement, et avec les acteurs sur des thèmes qui sont des thèmes très importants pour l'économie sociale. Deux d'entre eux ont été mentionné à de nombreuses reprises ce matin: les cadres régulataires, les cadres légaux et les mesures d'impact social sur lesquelles nous travaillons en ce moment. Et à la fin de cette année, nous publierons deux guides internationaux sur ce sujet. Et dans le passé, on a suscité, par exemple, des discussions sur l'importance de la collecte des données d'économie sociale pour les raisons que Frédéric vous évoquiez tout à l'heure, liées à l'impact social, et qui est l'importance de donner visibilité à l'économie sociale. Et donc, on avait organisé, par exemple, des discussions sur les comptes satellites qui ont après favorisé l'engagement de quelques pays, pas seulement en Europe, sur ça. Et je vais passer directement à quelque chose qui se relie aux discussions qu'on vient d'avoir. On a créé l'année dernière, et beaucoup, je suis sûre, des participants de cette conférence ont été sollicités pour y participer. On a créé des partenariats d'apprentissage entre pairs mutuels dans le cadre de cette action globale pour le soutien des écosystèmes politiques de l'économie sociale qu'on a mis en place avec la coopération. Ça, c'est pour le passé et l'actualité. Qu'en est-il du futur et comment l'OCDE se positionne par rapport à ça? Après plus de 20 ans de travail et donc la consolidation d'une expertise importante sur le sujet, nous allons faire un changement d'échelle. Les pays de l'OCDE, y compris la France, nous ont encouragés à préparer une recommandation de l'OCDE sur l'économie sociale et solidaire et l'innovation sociale. Comme Anouche l'expliquait tout tout à l'heure, ces recommandations, en tout cas la recommandation de l'OCDE aussi, sont des instruments juridiques non contraignants.
These are non-binding resolutions, and so this asks countries to set up these major principles which of course drive these recommendations. So what do these recommendations consist of in terms of the OECD and the SSE and social innovation? So they are based on this common framework which provides is based over 9 major principles. First of all, promoting a culture of the social economy, developing institutional frameworks which are favorable, and also building the right legal and regulatory frameworks, and also allowing access to public-private markets, and also support competences with encouraging measures and follow up on the social impact, and also developing data and encouraging social innovation. So as you can see, I think we're all aligned in terms of these different major public policies, and we also work with the European Commission on this, because we've realized that we have some of the same actions that have been identified by the EU, and for several years we've been working together now. So we create quite a few synergies, and also we work with the task force. Now I'm going to conclude by saying that in terms of the preparation of these recommendations, which follow quite detailed process, we have exchanges, constant exchanges with the countries of the OECD. And yesterday we had a discussion in an informal group, informal working group, and some countries here participate in that, including France, in order to fine-tune these recommendations. And also we decided, even though this is not required by our procedures, we decided to open a consultation with people on the ground for reasons that I mentioned before. It is important that these recommendations are anchored and really correspond to the needs of the local players. So we will be inviting international networks, national networks as well, and we think that we already know these because we have done a map of these, and of course we're open to other suggestions as well. Now, we hope that there will be this recommendation that is due to come out in June. So lots of different things will be happening, and of course, it is the member countries of the OECD who will adopt this recommendation, but they can be joined by all countries on all continents. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Antonella. Now we just have about 5 minutes left to take some questions and answers, and to go a bit further in terms of this very key subject, which is recognition of the social and solidarity economy. You talked about the work of the major organizations, which is very important, and also the different players of the social and solidarity economy. If we take the example of France, in the movement of social entrepreneurs has contributed a lot to the adoption of the law in July 2014 on SSC, and perhaps I can turn to Jérôme so that she can tell us perhaps how this decentralized movement, which is concentrated as we've got social innovators and organizations, how can they, in the coming months and years, how can they support this draft resolution project? João, are you with us? Otherwise, we can take some questions from the room. There's a microphone being handed around. Jérôme? Jérôme doesn't seem to be with us.
I'm very much over here. I'm sorry. My tech was not working. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm really sorry. So I think my main point, which is going to be over here, is how can we all collectively leverage action? I think there are many silos which are there, but we don't really collectively leverage action. And I think that is the most important thing that we need to do. If we can all come together, Pact for Impact is a great thing, Vic is doing something, but if there can be some way of collectively doing it, and for putting social entrepreneurs which are unseat at the table, I think that would be something which would be very useful. So that's where I would look at us doing it. Collective action, because if the sector doesn't work collectively, we're not going to make that change happen. And that's my main thing, which I would say.
Merci, Jérôme. Peut-être une dernière question avant de...
Thank you, Jérôme. Just a final question before we conclude, and to go back to what Xavier said on the issue of funding, which is key for SSE. And so Sir Ronald Cohen, that I interviewed at the Paris Peace Forum, he said that the market, as according to Madame Swiss, that this has to be guided by your heart. So you who are an observer of finance, the financial sector, how do you see the evolution? Perhaps you can give us a few figures and kind of take stock of the discussions that are taking place and the financial markets in Paris, for example, on all these major changes. Thank you, Frédéric. So this is a nice formula. So I don't know whether the hand is guided by the heart in finance. I think that sometimes the heart tries to take over, but one of the discussions that we've had in the working group in Paris in terms of the impact finance, and what crystallized the debates is the fact that should we introduce into the impact finance the fact of having a minimum yield. So this was in Paris. We wanted to separate finance from philanthropy, but a large number of players from the financial world insisted to say that sometimes and partially in terms of their investments, they can do this because in terms of their customers, they see a desire to have an extra financial kind of yield. So even if the money isn't all that profitable. So I think this is something that we didn't hear in the past, and but we're beginning to see it now. We're talking about several billions of assets and but socially responsible financing with a definition which is impact finance is several billion. So, and the gap between the two, there is a gap between the two, but the fact to be at the frontier with impact financing, which makes about 10% a year. So this, we need to generate some of those flows to those players. And there we can see that apart from financial performance, this kind of funding creates environmental action jobs and other things. So this is something that we are seeing. And okay, we'll consider, will continue to be driven by numbers. But okay, thank you, Xavier. So we're going to close this session. Thank you to our 7 speakers, and I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the team from Olivia Grégoire's cabinet, and also Bercy, who've been working for many months to organize and make this alliance go forward, and all the SOS consulting teams as well for their work at the Secretariat. So stay with us, stay in the room, stay connected, and we will just very quickly reorganize this stage. And in 5 minutes, I would ask you to join the first of our roundtables on regional operation, from regional operation to international recognition. Thank you.
Bien, si vous le voulez bien, nous allons reprendre.
If you're ready, we can resume with this first roundtable, which I have the pleasure and honor of moderating. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, ministers, vice president, dear friends, the opening session allowed us to outline the achievements and outlook for the Pact for Impact Alliance for the Social and Solidarity Economy. First of all, I'd like to thank all of the participants, all of the contributors, and all of the signatories who have made this success possible. I therefore have the honor of moderating this first roundtable, which is called From Regional Cooperation to International Recognition of the Social and Solidarity Economy. That is a testament to our ambition. The social and solidarity economy has been designed to respond to the needs of our society in order to achieve the sustainable development goals, and this has been mentioned several times. We need to place humans and social justice at the heart of our societies, our democracies, and our economies. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted this further. The social and solidarity economy has played a significant role in mitigating the shock caused by this crisis, and particularly for the most vulnerable, who are at the heart of the 2030 agenda. We therefore need to come up with inclusive, solidarity-based development models and to introduce enabling regulation. Now, in the face of the tragic pandemic that we're facing and the global situation, this is more necessary than ever. But how do we move forward? How do we ensure that the social and solidarity economy moves forward? How do we scale it up? First of all, we need to capitalize on national and regional successful experiences. We need to learn from this in order to scale up the social and solidarity economy and ensure its international recognition. Today, we have eminent political representatives from different countries, but who share the same faith in the social and solidarity economy. And I thank them for accepting to share their successful experiences with us today. We'll now listen to them with a great deal of interest. First of all, I'll give the floor to Madame Thiam Diop, who is the Minister of Microfinance and of the Social and Solidarity Economy in Senegal. Madam Minister, your commitment to the SSE is long-standing, and in 2015 you created a national platform bringing together several women's networks in the field of housing and the social economy. You adopted a law on the social and solidarity economy, which was passed in 2021 unanimously. The social and solidarity economy and microfinancing are at the heart of the government of Senegal for 2019-2024. You have the floor. Thank you very much. I would like to greet everyone, all protocols observed, Madam Minister. I would also like to thank the participants for their interest in listening to Senegal's experience. Very briefly, Senegal attaches great importance to the social and solidarity economy, which is one of the drivers of its growth and development. By developing the Emerging Senegal Plan, the development strategy, the government of Senegal is committed to an emerging economy by 2035 with a social and solidarity economy based on the rule of law. The context at the moment shows the importance of solidarity in the face of pandemics, wars, and inequality. Unfortunately, the inequality pandemic is indefinite and long-lasting, and therefore we need a strong response, and I believe that lies in solidarity. And this is why it's vital to be a part of this global alliance for recognizing the social and solidarity economy. This is why President Sall listed the social and solidarity economy as one of the 5 priorities of the Emerging Senegal Plan. This is particularly important for us because the social fabric in our country is made up of many social enterprises who are working on the basis of the social and solidarity economy values, although many of them are informal. We have a lot of vulnerable groups in our country, such as women and youth, who are involved in these activities. Therefore, by making the economy work for the these social enterprises, we have introduced an enabling framework to allow this sector to play its rightful role in development. We have done this in 3 ways. First of all, setting out a sectoral policy strategy. We also adopted the guiding law for the social and solidarity economy, as you mentioned earlier, which aims to support and foster the promotion of the solidarity economy in 3 ways. First of all, through governance, then observation and monitoring. We need data, and we need to ensure that the organizations are structured. We also work in supporting through financial means these organizations. The law also foresees specific provisions for the corporate social responsibility in our country. In addition, in order to have reliable statistics, the law also created a special account that brings together data on the sector, which will allow us to track the development of our country and to appropriate these laws. Because as we know, laws can be very good and well, but it's there's a big leap from drafting laws to actually implementing them. I believe that these commitments show that we are aligned with the goals of the Pact for Impact Alliance, and this is why we've signed the manifesto. And Senegal stands ready to continue supporting this movement for the social and solidarity economy. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madame Minister, and thank you for your commitment. It was extremely fascinating to hear from you, from your experience. You recalled that in order to move forward, you need a legislative and regulatory framework in the long term. And we also need to ensure that the framework can be implemented in good conditions through support and ownership actions. Now, I'll turn to Madame Dogo, who is the Minister for Solidarity and the Fight Against Poverty in Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast. You were Vice President of the National Assembly, Secretary of State, and then a minister. As Secretary of State, you launched the first national strategy for the empowerment of women in Côte d'Ivoire. As part of your current ministerial functions, you are in charge of implementing the Côte d'Ivoire Solidarity Programme, and more specifically, helping the most poor and vulnerable groups of society and fostering the empowerment of young girls. In Côte d'Ivoire, there's an Ivorian network for the social and solidarity economy, which is very dynamic, that you have been supporting. Thanks for being here. You have the floor. Thank you very much, François Gave. Ladies and gentlemen, It's a great pleasure to join you today for this event to present the 2022 roadmap for Pact for Impact. And it's a pleasure to be taking part as a panelist in this high-level roundtable on the recognition of the SSE. In Côte d'Ivoire, it's true that actions in the field of SSE exist. However, they are sparse and they require more effective action in order to build synergies. Because at the moment, there's not yet institutional recognition of the sector. The ministry dedicated to this issue was created in April 2021, and we are tasked with fostering this SSE. We're very pleased to take part in this panel. Although we don't have the institutional framework in place, we believe it will help us to better address issues related to the SSE. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we are undertaking a series of actions in the SSE. We created the National Solidarity Day to recall the importance of solidarity and cohesion. And from 2019 to 2020, the government social program, which has been led by our president, has allowed us to improve the living conditions of our population. And following the positive outcome of the PS Gov program 2019-2020, we will have another program for 2024, which is based on social inclusion. And this will include the fight against poverty. And for us, solidarity is at the heart of any action in this field. It allows us to address and compensate inequality by fighting against poverty. In Côte d'Ivoire, the SSE has been addressed at many levels. When I was Secretary of State for Women's Empowerment, we fostered microcredits for women. As we know, in rural areas, many women do not have access to banks. And therefore, lots of women are working in the informal sector. So our idea was to bring together these women so that they can decide how much they wish to borrow. So they decide how much they wish to borrow or to save, and they join together 3 months later to share the savings that they have put aside. So this allows us to empower women, but also to foster solidarity and cohesion among these women. This program was very well received, and it was supported by capacity building for life skills and literacy. In rural areas, the literacy rate is not very high, and therefore these actions allowed us to introduce other programs in this field. At the Ministry for Solidarity, with socio-productive organizations, we have been undertaking actions. For example, a couple of weeks ago, we visited a village where beneficiaries were able to generate 3 million, around $3 million. The village association scheme allows all of the participants to save, but they have another account as well. So there are 2 accounts. The second account allows villagers to act individually. So the beneficiaries of this program are able to access the universal healthcare card, for example, and other social benefits, which allow them to climb the social ladder. So, although we do not have formal recognition of the SSE in Côte d'Ivoire, it is something that is fostered in practice, and the ministry in charge of this will be encouraging the government to really implement this in the weeks and months to come. Thank you very much. That was very interesting, and you gave us a very detailed overview of what you're doing in Côte d'Ivoire, which will be very helpful for our conversation today. It's very important to foster solidarity, as you've rightly mentioned. Now, I will give the floor to our third speaker, who'll be joining us remotely. That is Mr. Basilakin III, the Minister of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, Social Economy and Craftsmanship in Cameroon. I thank him for joining us. Mr. Basilakin is in charge of promoting the social and solidarity economy in his country. He regulates, coordinates, and ensures the monitoring of action in the field of social entrepreneurship among associations and cooperatives in Cameroon. He's a strong defender of the social and solidarity economy at the social level, but also at the economic level. And also, he's also committed to fighting against poverty and unemployment. In 2019, Cameroon adopted a framework law on the social economy to identify players in the social economy and to promote their development and growth. You have the floor. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ministers, distinguished guests, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I wish to express my appreciation to the Secretary of State, Madame Grégoire, for inviting us to take part in this conference on the social and solidarity economy, and especially for France's leadership in the promotion of the international recognition of the SSE. During this roundtable, we'll be sharing some of the progress made by Cameroon and the experience and best practice sharing practices in the region with other sub-Saharan countries such as Togo and Benin. In order to draw on the groundwork carried out by players of the social and solidarity economy, in 2004, we created a ministry tasked with promoting the social and solidarity economy in Cameroon. And it has therefore been introduced in public policies. The President, His Excellency, has organized support schemes to foster the social and solidarity economy, but also to recognize its role in contributing to the GDP, but also in mitigating social inequality. This is the vision that is behind the SSE ministry in Cameroon. There are a number of players in the field who are not always effectively organized. There are also issues of losses in rural areas. In some cases, there are intermediaries who reap most of the profits, and therefore our government wished to foster collective entrepreneurship, as well as innovation and wealth and job creation. As you recalled, Mr. Moderator, on the 25th of April 2019, Cameroon introduced a framework law on SSE. And we've also introduced a policy on the 4th of January 2020 to foster and structure the social and solidarity economy. So this law of 2019 creates institutions such as the Council for the Social and Solidarity Economy, but it also encourages action on behalf of all of the different players in the field and creates a network among them. The law stabilizes and brings together these players through a register, and it also sets out action for these different players, as well as enabling them to access international cooperation. We have structured the social and solidarity economy at local level through the support of decentralization in Cameroon. And we also trained territorial authorities to take on this transfer in competencies, because the social and solidarity economy takes place, first of all, at local level. And the SSE players are key drivers of this social and solidarity economy. We adopted a bottom-up approach, which is the key to the success of this process to foster SSE. This has allowed us to develop a development program for the SSE, which is being implemented currently, and it contributes to mobilizing domestic financing as well as development partner financing. It has been indispensable at the level of the government, but also the level of organizations working in the field. I'd also like to highlight that thanks to the NGO partnership for co-development between France and Africa, the representative of which spoke during the opening session, has allowed us to implement a model for the structuring of the social and solidarity economy, which is a network for the social and solidarity economy, the RESS. This has allowed community members to, on the one hand, address local issues, and on the other hand, allow local officials to have greater visibility of their local situation, and lastly, to ensure better participation of constituents to decisions that concern them. So this instrument aims to foster participatory a participatory form of economy, the development of local farming sectors, to move from informal to formal forms of cooperation, but also to strengthen democracy. This network allows local players to act, but with a global perspective. Cameroon also has a network for officials in the field of the social solidarity economy, and it also has a network for parliamentarians, members of parliament, which allows the SSE to be addressed at a higher level, with MPs addressing issues relating to the social and solidarity economy. Now, when it comes to moving from regional cooperation to international cooperation, we are convinced that Africa is organized in sub-regions, and therefore we propose a systemic model which is based on a bottom-up approach. We wish to achieve Pan-African consensus in the field of SSE with a dynamic coalition, but we also will be taking part, of course, in the Pact for Impact Alliance. Our model is based on other countries in sub-Saharan Africa, for example, Togo and Benin, and we stand ready to share our experience with other countries as well, because to promote solidarity, we need better advocacy to involve the African Union, the African Development, the European Commission, among others. This is why the country of Cameroon stands ready to formulate specific proposals in the upcoming International Labour Conference, the commitment of African countries to promote social and solidarity economy will provide a specific contribution through solidarity-based values and principles. African states have great aspirations, and therefore, to conclude, Pact for Impact is a space for exchange and allows us to foster the scaling up of social and solidarity enterprises to maximize their impact and to allow them to take on their rightful role within the economies of our countries. Africa has a major role to play in sharing our values so we can move from regional to international recognition. We believe that this is the appropriate forum to express our aspirations and to foster social and solidarity economy, which can ensure inclusive growth at territory level, but also at national and international level to make our territories more attractive and more dynamic, to better resist in the face of challenges, but also to retain our productive strength. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Minister. That was very captivating. I think you mentioned all of the different aspects that we're looking at, the local territorial aspect, the anchoring in local initiatives. We have the national and regulatory aspect that you mentioned, which is important, and also regional cooperation. And then also you mentioned your commitment at the international level as well. So this was a very precious words that we heard from you. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Minister. And now, what I suggest now is that we move on to a video from the Vice President.
Ah, le ministre italien est avec nous. Très bien.
So we have the Italian minister with us. Very well. So we are therefore going to give the floor to Mr. Orlando, who is the Labour Minister and the Minister of Social Policy in Italy. He will be speaking remotely. Mr. Orlando has a long and brilliant parliamentary and ministerial career. He has been Minister of the Environment, Minister of Justice in Italy. He also presided the Italian G20 in 2021. And he also has worked for so that large companies are vigilant as it relates to international value chains. He is a defender of the international recognition of the social and solidarity economy. And so I'm very happy to have him with us here, and I'm going to give him the floor. Mr. Minister, you have the floor. Thank you very much, and hello to everyone. Dear colleagues, I would like to thank France for its invitation to this interesting roundtable, which provides us with an opportunity to share experiences and to think together about the way in which we can strengthen multilateral collaboration, international collaboration in terms of the social economy. We are currently living through a time where it is clear that the world needs dialogue, and over the last few decades, we have witnessed with growing concern a increase in division and distances between us and the planet and within communities. Reconciliation is essential, and it is also a complex process which requires us to call upon the contribution of us all, and which only works if it is supported by an expansive force. So this is the spirit in which Pact for Impact was born, to promote a new alliance which is able to take up the new challenges and to show a new path to follow. The social economy means an economy which leaves no one behind. It is in this spirit that we established the Luxembourg Declaration in 2015, an experience of which was promoted in Europe by a group of countries, and which today has 20 members. We've decided to work together to help the European Union move forward towards a shared idea of the social economy, conscious and aware of what it must be. That it must become, that is to say, an inclusive model of growth. It is also in this context that the recent action plan of the European Commission, which urges us to take action to strengthen the local economy as a model that has demonstrated remarkable resilience during the pandemic. This year, Italy is chairing the monitoring group of the Luxembourg Declaration, and this group represents for us a source of pride and a commitment. In this moment of stark division, Italy hopes to bring about thinking about a crucial question, the primacy of human life. The conflict in Ukraine and the mobilization of social economy organizations in a number of countries with a view to welcoming refugees fleeing the Russian aggression demonstrates the fundamental role of the civic sector when it comes to supporting communities and fragile populations. And it's all the more important at these times because our ability to welcome refugees, whether they are, regardless of where they are born, is a humanitarian duty. And it is also proof, the most tangible proof of our identity and our values of universal solidarity. The principle of the primacy of life is a fundamental value and which guides the social economy in all its aspects. Today, there is a pressing need for social justice as the foundation of peace and prosperity. And that is why it is more important than ever to promote the social economy beyond the borders and to recognize its role in international cohesion and development. I must mention here that the International Labour Organization, in its centenary declaration, reaffirmed that without social justice, there is no peace, and we must reaffirm this each day. I am convinced that the Italian presidency of the Luxembourg Committee will provide us with a good opportunity to present a proposal so that the United Nations General Assembly can adopt a resolution dedicated to the development of the social economy. It is now time to adopt a shared language and shared commitments so that our objectives, the objective to be achieved, will be clear and provide measures to overcome social challenges, economic social challenges, and challenges as it relates to employment. And this will bring about a period of transition which will become clearer. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Thank you very much for sharing that and sharing your strong commitment in favor of the SSE. You reminded us of the great values that unite us all. You reminded us of the principle of the primacy of human life. And this reminds us of the urgent need also for social justice. And I'm happy as well that you outlined the wish of the Italian presidency of the Luxembourg Committee to adopt a resolution dedicated to the development of the social and solidarity economy. This is something that we all hope for. Thank you very much, therefore. And now I would like to give the floor to our next speaker, and this will be a contribution by video from Mr. Rodriguez Cordero, who is the Vice President of Costa Rica. As you know, Costa Rica has an SSE law and has had that law in place since 2016. The Ministry of Work and Social Security elaborated a strategy for 2021-2025 in favor of the SSE, and I think that Mr. Rodriguez Cordero is going to talk to us about the Costa Rican experience, a pioneer in many fields, a country that is committed to the social and solidarity economy. And he's going to talk to us about the Presidential Council that organizes and guides actions for his government as it relates to the social and solidarity economy. On behalf of the government of the Republic of Costa Rica, I wish to extend a warm greetings to and profound gratitude to the government of France and to the Secretariat of the Pact for Impact Alliance and the social and solidarity economy sector for organizing this event. The social and solidarity economy and the efforts to drive measures to promote the preservation of natural resources have made it possible for our countries to strengthen their ties of cooperation in recent years. France and Costa Rica have for 3 years led the High Ambition for Nature and Persons Coalition, which has an aim to protect by 2030 at least 30% of continental territories and oceanic territories, and to mitigate climate change. The social and solidarity economy plays a crucial role in Costa Rica's efforts to achieve sustainability, which is understood as the balance between the economic aspects, social and environmental aspects of development. The sector of rural electrification cooperatives and companies dedicated to ecotourism and community organizations that take part in protecting wildlife, and they are just 3 examples of how the civic sector contributes to generating economic prosperity, social justice, and environmental responsibility. The sector of the social and solidarity economy has a large history in Costa Rica, which goes back to the first years of the 20th century. The emergence of different entrepreneurial expressions in this sector has been supported by a solid normative framework which provides it with legal recognition and institutional support. Many figures of the social and solidarity economy enjoy constitutional recognition, which demonstrates the significant role of this sector in the Costa Rican development model. In 1920, the first law was promulgated and that recognized the legal status of the civic sector. And sustained efforts have been made by the Costa Rican state to provide legal protection and institutional support to these companies. The Alvaro Quesada administration has contributed to this effort with important public policy instruments, the first of which was the creation of the Presidential Council of the Social and Solidarity Economy, which was established in 2018. This council works with 5 ministries and 5 decentralized agencies and is presided by the second Vice President of the Republic. It represents the highest body in the central government to coordinate the efforts to strengthen companies in the civil sector. Its responsibility is to formulate and to manage the implementation and the assessment of policies drafted for the sector. Once established, this collegial body will set a priority, which is to establish the first public policy for the social and solidarity economy. As I mentioned before, Costa Rica has many normative instruments for the social and solidarity economy. but we do not have a vision that allows for institutional coordination. The public policy of the social solidarity economy was decreed in November 2020 and allows the country to outline strategic objectives for institutions that provide services to these companies, improving their coordination and their organization. At the international level, Costa Rica has worked arduously over the last few years to achieve the recognition for the social and solidarity economy as a key sector for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. In order to do this, we've worked with other governments such as Mexico, Spain, France, and South Korea, but also with multilateral bodies such as the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, the International Labour Organization, and the Organization for the Economic Cooperation and Development and the International System, Costa Rica Central American System, and with other organs and bodies in the sector, such as the International Cooperative Alliance and the School of Social Economy in Andalusia. These alliances allow us to place the social and solidarity economy at the international level and allows companies to contribute to the economic, social, cultural, and environmental development of our nations. By mentioning the social and solidarity economy and cooperativism in the centenary declaration of the ILO and including a point of discussion on the agenda of the next International Labour Conference, are clear demonstrations of how there is a greater recognition and visibility of the sector and its contribution to development. This progress is in line with the objective to have a recommendation on the social and solidarity economy and to have this adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations. For this, it is essential for governments to commit to this cause with the support of multilateral bodies and civil society organizations to continue promoting the values, the principles, and the successes of these companies. I would like to conclude by outlining Costa Rica's commitment to lobbying this recommendation and to continue working with other governments to meet this valuable aspiration. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Vice-président. Cet exposé très.
Thank you, Vice President, for this very detailed and precise intervention, which will allow us to continue with our work. Costa Rica really is a key pioneer country in this respect. Now I suggest that we watch another video. So we're still in Latin America. So it's a video by our Mexican friends. As you know, Mexico is a country which is very much advanced, has general legislation on SSC since 22. So it's a pioneering text in Latin America. So let's watch the video from Mexico. So good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure for me to greet you from Mexico City, and I regret that I can't be with you for this major event which has been organized by France and with this major project, Pact for Impact. Since the beginning of the presidency of López Obrador, he always talked about a new policy, economic and social policy, in order to promote in what he called the moral economy. And of course, the SSC is a major part of that economy. It's for that reason that the National Institute for the Social Economy, of which I'm the general manager, This is why we set up a program in order to diffuse this SSC culture and so that SSC companies all over the world can be part of this. We're also putting together new projects, and we're coming up with projects for cooperatives on energy, since we are going through energy transition. This is what Mexico is trying to implement. Also, we're making many efforts to see how much, to make sure that SSC doesn't remain something which is small or something alternative, but so that it really does become a way and for populations to develop their future in an environment of well-being. And so this is why we devote so much energy, and we have so many training programs to try and provide the populations with the means to be able to imagine and create the different structures of the social economy, and also to promote new companies all over the world for all. And this is why the initiative Pact for Impact, which has been promoted by the French government, is extremely important for us, because we know very well that cooperation, even though it has to start from the grassroots level, from the local level, it will be just as powerful as other economic models in the history of the world. But that can only happen with the participation of other countries, of participation of allies that truly want a democratic economy for all, and for all sectors of the economy. So this is why we are truly committed, truly motivated to participate in this initiative. And to this end, I would like to wish you the best of luck for this event. And I will, of course, be attentive to the results and the outcomes and for everything that we can provide. I would also like to greet the ambassador from Mexico, who will be working with you in Paris. So thank you to all of you. And I hope that we will be able to meet soon physically, either in France or here in Mexico, a country which is trying to transform its economy and to show a new approach, adopt a new approach, the possibility of putting the economic powers and making them work for the people and the population. So thank you to all of you, and I hope you have a very good day. Thank you very much, Director General. Thank you for those words, which are so important for all of us. Now, I think we will have another video now. This is from the President of the International Institute of Associativism. This is from Argentina. They also have a law for promoting the social economy, and that is moving forward very quickly. Good morning. I will be speaking in French. To facilitate communication, I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting Argentina, particularly the institute that I represent, which is a government organization which has a specificity of being co-governed by representatives of the cooperative sector. It is managed by a management board and also by the state, and 4 representatives from cooperatives. So it means that it has a very specific management model. So it's part managed by the state and also by public organizations. So I'd like to, I'm sorry, but the sound is extremely poor. So this is a rather particular sector in Argentina. It covers different areas different services and different organizations within the territory. We have cooperative services, and we have insurance services, credit services, and there are a huge number of cooperatives in Argentina, and so the SSE sector in Argentina is huge, and it covers about 60% of the population. And sorry, but the sound is very poor. So apart from the importance of this particular sector, and for us in terms of the national and world and global context, the cooperativism has a good potential for transformation. We have the possibility of creating jobs. It also allows us to share social, environmental values that we defend, and moreover, it has shown its efficiency in terms of circulation of capital at local level. And now, Argentina is a huge country, a federal country, where cooperativism and mutualism plays a very important role in the transformation of the country. And this is why I'd like to thank you for this invitation and for giving me the opportunity to talk about the Argentinian experience. And we'll be able to contribute to Pact for Impact and to strengthen SSE. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. These are very encouraging messages. Thank you as well to Argentina and Mexico for having spoken in French. Now, we had a last video, and I don't think, unfortunately, we have the time to listen to this. Unfortunately, it was from Spain, which was very interesting. I'd just like to point out that Spain is a pioneer also in terms of legislation when it comes to SSE, very active participants in Europe and also internationally. So that's a shame that we can't have the video, but please, I apologize for that. Now, a couple of closing words, just to thank you all and to thank our two ministers here, and those ministers that accepted to speak by video. So thank you very much for that to all of you and to all our speakers and participants. Now, I am very much struck by the diversity of all these different national experiences. They're all very different. So this SSE is, first of all, a local experience on the ground, but there's a dual convergence and the feeling that SSE is an indispensable link in the chain in terms of our democracies and our markets, and also the impression that we need to move further and aim higher. This, of course, this is the challenge in terms of recognizing SSE as one of the main players in terms of the economy, and we hope that this will be recognized by the UN. So this roundtable is coming to a close. I would just like to ask our participants here in the room to remain in the room, and we will prepare for the next roundtable. So perhaps we can give a round of applause to our hosts.
Bonjour à tous. Bonjour à tous. Bienvenue à
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the second round table. Now, the first technical detail, could you shut off your mics when you're not speaking, please? Now, and I'll ask the five speakers to switch on their mics when they're due to speak.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Can you hear me?
Oui.
Super.
Yes, we can. Great.
Alors, vous m'entendez en ligne, mais on ne m'entend pas à Bercy.
You can hear me online, but apparently, but I'd like to know, first of all, can you hear me at Bercy?
On attend une petite minute.
Okay, we'll give it a minute to allow people to sit down.
Je demande donc si nos amis de Bercy
So,
m'entendent désormais.
can my friends in Bercy hear me now?
Pour tous nos amis en ligne, il va falloir
Well,
patienter.
for all our friends who are listening online, we'll have to wait for a couple of minutes because there's a video taking place in Bercy. So we have to wait a couple of minutes so that we can reactivate the sound for the round table.
En attendant d'être connecté.
So while we're waiting to get connected, perhaps I can ask our participants on Zoom to close their mics and their webcams. Now, I've been told that the sound is now working in Bercy. So we'll be able to start in a couple of seconds. So let's ask our friends in Bercy to sit down. So, okay, you can go. So, ladies and gentlemen, ministers, elected officials, leaders, and welcome to this second roundtable in France. When Michel Rocard was a minister, he asked to be minister of the economic and social economy. And so the social and solidarity economy doesn't exist. So we have to create this. So 40 years later, the recognition of SSC is international, and this is speeding up around the world. And once again, we could not. And this has been being pushed from the grassroots level. It's been around for a long time. It's been promoted by lots of different associations and companies. Money is not an end, but just a means. And it's been used to create a social and environmental impact. So I direct SOS. And so what we do, this is that we go from the sum of small units that have been proven to making this system systemic. So we want a fairer, more sustainable economy, but also a happier one. And so I have of many players of SSS, we've seen that there's a same change of paradigms. It's not about having just isolated projects or a small club of idealists in a economy which is built up of silos. No, the fight that we are leading is a change of the economic system, the institutional system, and also the cultural system, because this is a kind of ideal for future generations, an ideal for public policy and also for companies. So at this particular scale, these are world networks that are fighting for SSE. So our morning has shown how important this is. The speakers are lending their voice to SSE, explaining the different experiences, talking about its wealth. And we have 5 speakers with us this morning. Yvon Parier, he works for RIPES for the promotion of SSE, and he started working in this very early on in Canada, in cooperatives, working with fishermen and others. Has always been militant and also working with workers in Quebec. So we also have the Vice President of Social Economy Europe and Director of NC Insertion Structures. It's a larger structure now, but it was small before. But you have built it, and you have brought together these European forces. We also have Neven Manovic, President of Euclid Network.
You come from the corporate world. You love to have a large-scale work there, but somewhat you got frustrated at some point. So you became obsessed with more bottom-up approaches of the social economy. Nous avons Bruno Rolans, directeur général de l'Alliance coopérative internationale.
Bruno Rolans. Bruno, you are from the development world. You are a representative of Frères des Hommes in China, and you have organized cooperative projects, particularly for local development. And then we have Stefan Pfeiffer, who is the deputy mayor of Bordeaux, representative of GSEF. So you have set SSE a very high priority, especially for elections. And so you created a cooperative with a trade union of students, and you organized student solidarity initiatives. So we're going to look at 2 subjects now for today. The situation today and tomorrow. So what is the fight that your network is leading? Perhaps we can start with Stefan. So if you're there, Stefan, you have perhaps a small forum that you'd like to talk about. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for this invitation and for your introduction. So GESF, and the main reason is to organize a world forum on SSE, which tries to bring together several thousands of people from the world, all over the world, to talk about these issues, to see how we can contribute to the development of SSE and come up with initiatives in the territories. So these are important events there. And the last physical meeting took place in 2018 in Bilbao, and then before that we had one in after that we had one in Mexico, but the next one will take place in 2023 in Dakar, Senegal. So these are very important moments, part of a global context. So one of the important themes is the recognition of SSE. So we are a member of the International Coalition for SSE. The objective is to collectively be able to have a strong voice, which will then allow us to develop local policies, public policies to support this rather different type of economy, rather new type of economy. So these are things then which are important, and the GSEF will be able to make a contribution to this coalition and to the negotiations that will be taking place at the UN and elsewhere over the coming weeks. So thank you, that's great. So the GSF is a group of people, and you discuss with your friends in Dakar. Can you tell us a bit or a couple of words about the collective groups in GSF? So we're present in 36 countries around the world, and each time that we have a group that joins, then they already have a network of players with them. So it's very important to have this network, because this allows us to dialogue. We have a political institutional approach, but also then a very kind of on-the-ground approach. And the objective is also to manage to develop a service offering which will allow us to support cities, regions all around the world in order to develop a local policy for SSE. So this is key, and this also links us to international and local players. And we have some very promising perspectives. So the recognition internationally of SSE is very important, because this will allow us to bring and create these local products, because there are many communities who don't know how to get involved in this. So I'm now going to hand over to Patricia. You've been doing a lot of work working on an action plan. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Okay.
So yes, first of all, thank you for this invitation. I represent Social Economy Europe. This is a network at European level, and as you also said, we have been fighting for this European action plan, and we've been working on that since 2014. It was really a long stretch and something of an adventure. We have seen and participate in 2 European elections, and so we were able to build the social solidarity economy, which was a very strong moment in terms of the European Parliament. It wasn't easy to get 80 MEPs around the table to talk about SSE. Social Economy Europe also has a secretariat, and so I would invite you to the intergroup if you can. And also we have a major role to play there, and we have worked a lot to achieve this. And then we have also received the first approval, the conclusions of on SSE in 2015 under Luxembourg, and we're also a part of a group of countries that work on SSE. And we have the committee in Luxembourg, which now has many countries that are part of it. So we have 2 proposals in terms of the action plan. The first came in 2018, the second in 2021. SSE is not a secret anymore. It's becoming more visible, and it's becoming to be enshrined into main policies and also into the financial instruments of the EU, Invest EU, amongst others, Horizon Europe. So we can see that SSE is appearing all across the board. So our group has also grown over the years, and there are about 20 members now around Europe. And of course, as you all know, since December, we have managed to achieve our dream, which was to have an action plan. That doesn't mean that the work is over, that the job is over. It continues. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I've noted that. So this allows me to transition very simply and move to Yvonne Barrier, who also works with institutions and so leadership of the state for international organizations. And in terms of Yvonne, she works between the UN and the ILO. So can we have your point of view? Good morning, everybody. Good morning to the ministers and the other representatives in the room. So RIPES is an intercontinental organization. We have networks on all continents. And it was created in '97. So it was a response to liberalism, which was getting out of control, creating inequality and other things. And from 2002, we formalized our network. And SSE, that means that for us, the economy needs to be social, but also show solidarity at the same time. And so we shouldn't leave all these millions of people behind. So this is key for us. So we built this network on all continents. And we also have a network in Asia, a major network in Asia. So, and they joined us to have a common voice on an international level. So since 2009, we have been working with the ILO because the crisis in 2008, 2009 has caused a lot of concern. So we had to find a way of working on this. And we're a member of the United Nations Task Force, and that's since the beginning, and so we've been participating for 7 years now, because the SSE can't advance an awful lot on its own, but so we need the help of international organizations, FAO, the ILO and others, and since 2016, and we have been carrying out various projects because SSE is becoming more and more recognized at the international level. It's been recognized in terms of habitat work in 2016. So many areas then that recognize the potential of SSE. Even the Secretary General in February 21 recognize this. So the potential of SSE to achieve the SDGs, because everybody knows that Agenda 2030 is moving very slowly. So the potential for SSE to achieve this, to have an impact on climate change, and also to achieve peace in Africa and elsewhere, to settle regional conflicts, which are often caused by poverty and inequality. So we must change the paradigms. I think that's quite true. Thank you. Okay, change system, change paradigm.
Le changement. Bruno, c'est un peu votre job aussi.
Bruno, this is your job, making sure that the law changes in order to introduce new public policies. Yes, thank you, Alexandre. The SSE started to be promoted in Europe as of the 80s and the 90s and the beginnings of the year 2000. Now, to go back in history a bit, I'd like to highlight that the cooperative European movement has been one of the main drivers of the social and solidarity economy at European level. And it was even at that time we promoted interaction with European institutions and the Social Economy Europe organizations, which Patricia is representing today. So that was at a time when there was very little talk about the SSE at global level. But today things have changed. For several years now, within the United Nations system, it's a topic that's very prominent. And within International Cooperative Alliance, we have members in 110 countries, and we work with partners at global level. And 2 years ago, we worked on the ILO Declaration on the Future of Work to ensure that cooperatives and the SSE were included in the text. And now we're very committed to the UN resolution and the upcoming ILC. We are made up of different players. There are around 3 million cooperatives that we represent in all sectors. In banking, for example, over 60% of the French banking sector is actually cooperatives. In the US, over 50% of food products are produced by farming cooperatives. And in various distribution sectors in different countries, cooperatives are very prominent, as well as in the health sector. Around 10% of global employment involves cooperatives, if you include all independent workers as well. There are many members of cooperatives worldwide with international standards that have been approved by international organizations. And therefore, the sector requires specific regulations to meet the expectations of producers, workers, parents, students, users, and consumers. And this is achieved through checks and balances on the democratic economy. We're aiming to have a lasting impact. For example, in my village of the Var in France, we have a cooperative bank, we have a cooperative farm, and we have a small cooperative supermarket as well. And this is all part of the economy at the village level. And there are lots of cooperatives, for example, in Italy and the Basque Country and Spain. And in fact, GDP per capita and employment is higher in countries where cooperatives are more prominent. So there's a direct correlation between these two things. We also work on local structures and infrastructure, particularly in terms of fair trade. This allows us to foster the creation of schools, clinics, bridges, basically local infrastructure that has a long-term impact. We also work in the field of peace building. Before and after conflicts, many cooperatives who were composed of people on both sides of the conflict, and they were able to work together in favor of peace. Now, you mentioned that 1 out of 7 people work in cooperatives or are involved in cooperatives. That's extraordinary.
Your friends here just talked about their respective fights, and I guess one of your fights is to give a voice to social entrepreneurs. Am I right?
Yes, thank you, Louis. And excusez-moi parce que je suis la seule personne qui ne.
Apologies, I'm the only person who doesn't speak French in this panel.
And maybe next year we'll see. First of all, thank you for the invitation, and it's really great to be here in a really good company, I must say. So yes, as you said, to say something shortly and briefly about Euclid Network that I represent. We are mainly representing either social enterprise networks or social enterprise intermediate organization. And, we have members in 21 European countries, which is not only, just to be sure, which is not only EU, but also, the neighboring states. And I think, one of the key areas is to actually, give the voice to the members of these networks and to express their concerns and their inputs and everything, first of all, at the European level, to the European Commission. But also, I think one of the key areas is our work is to build the ecosystem that is favorable for social businesses to flourish and to strive, because I think one of the things that is very important is the ecosystem. Without it, there cannot be a strong social economy. And on the other hand, I think the apologies for saying so, but I think for some time now, the ecosystem building was not such a sexy topic, among the donors or some supporters, because everybody would like to find, let's say, a very good social enterprise, a unicorn among social enterprises, to see them grow, to have great examples, to promote, the leaders, the individuals there, because that it is much more promotionally viable. And I think, building the ecosystem is sometimes the work you need to do behind. It's not always clear. It's not always so much tangible, but I think for us, it's very important. And I think I'm glad that this is a global event, because I think what we emphasize so much in our work is actually peer learning, because there is so much knowledge, not only within our network, but within all of these networks and organizations. And I think we rely so much on peer learning, on exchanges, on development of joint methodologies and approaches. And, I'm glad that today, we have people from outside Europe, because we would be really looking forward also to connect with some peers that are, not on European continent only.
Yeah, and I guess when you give a voice to social entrepreneurs or their networks, what are your channels? One channel may be the European Union, another one may be maybe the corporates as well. What's the scope of your work?
Yes, one definitely our close, I would say, stakeholder and counterpart would be European Commission, especially those DGs that are in charge of social economy. And we have been very vocal and, try to get as much inputs from our members and to kind of voice them within the strategy that has been developed for social economy and the action plan that has just recently been promoted. So I think this is one thing. The other thing is also when it comes to funding. So, one of the tools that we do is also we, get together our members and help them to, develop either consortia or partnership, but also to help them navigate the funding structures or the funding structures of the EU. Third would be corporates, definitely, where we try to engage corporate support or cooperation of any kind in different countries in Europe between the private sector and the social enterprises. Is it either through a bi-social campaigns that our members run, or through some kind of employee engagement work where we get pro bono support from some of the companies, or where we preferably we can get both, where we get money as well. But I think the point being is that I think we always have to have in mind that the situation is different in all of the countries, and that we have to be very mindful and thoughtful. This is what we have learned, that at least that you really have to listen to the people on the ground, because you cannot make methodologies that one size would fit all. Somewhere you would need very small support and loans and very patient capital. Somewhere you're already able to do much more. Somewhere there is more need for policy intervention. Somewhere there is more need to access to finance. And I think this is what we kind of strive try to do is to see, what are the best interventions and then to voice them, at the European level.
Merci. Thank you, Neven. I think there is kind of a dream to make social economy get mainstream. Et cela nous amène au deuxième sujet de cette table ronde qu'on va essayer de faire.
This brings us to the second part of our roundtable, which is the future. What's going to happen in 10 years? What can we hope to see in terms of the ambitions of each of your organizations? Stefan, for example, within the GSCF, where do you see GSCF in 10 years' time? Well, I think the role of the GSCF, if we are able to do what we want to do, is to contribute alongside the International Cooperative Alliance and others to bring local policies for SSE support in countries around the world, and also to ensure that residents themselves are able to develop their own partnership projects in the SSE. This will help foster collective self-organization. The aim is not to have people setting up projects alone, but rather to come together in a popular and collective movement around the SSE. Excellent. Is there a specific topic that you want to focus on? For example, food independence. This is a concrete example of the added value of the GSCF. Yes, indeed. As you mentioned earlier, we've only been chairing the GSF for several months now, so we haven't really had time yet to go and see each of our constituents. But what we have noted is that there's an important need for food independence and resilience. So, for example, in France, we're thinking about how we can foster local consumption, better eating habits. And in other places, it's more about thinking how people can feed their families. So globally, what we need to do is to think about sustainable ways of providing food. The SSE International Forum is working with its different networks in order to come up with proposals for public policies to support players on the ground in developing farming cooperatives and associations, for example. Now, we know that this won't happen overnight. We won't be able to supply food to big cities like Bordeaux with food sourced from less than 50 kilometers away overnight, but that's something that we're working on. Thank you very much. You mentioned the word integration. And now I'll turn to Patricia. The objective is to work beyond the borders of SSE. How do you see the future of social economy Europe? Well, at European level, we're starting with what we know. There are 2.8 million social enterprises in Europe, 13.6 million jobs, that is to say, so around 6.3 million in total, and that represents around 8% of GDP. So our aim, now this may be ambitious, but we want to go from 6.3% of employment in Europe to at least 10% by 2030. Now, we know that there are countries that are already making significant progress. For example, France, Spain, Belgium, and Italy, countries where the situation is really moving forward, where it's already around 10%. But there are other countries where a lot of work remains to be done. at European level, not necessarily just within the EU. There's a lot of potential. We need to update legislative and regulatory frameworks, and we need to ensure that the SSE is able to grow and develop. Now, there's the issue of the integration of disadvantaged individuals. There's also the green transition, the field of renewable energy with a lot of cooperatives, the circular economy with social enterprises, farming, sustainable consumption. All of these are challenges that can be addressed by the social economy. And we can really develop our potential with the support of legal, political, and financial instruments. And that's our goal for the next few years. That's fantastic. Now, Yvon, at national level, you have said that your ambition is to implement concrete projects at national level in terms of financing, for example. Yes, indeed. In line with what Stefan was saying, our priority for the next step is to have an inclusive and wide-ranging approach involving cooperatives and organizations. We also want to work with organizations and networks in other countries, such as Mali, for example, to foster gender equality in different regions of the world. Now, it's very good and well to have a UN framework, but if countries are not organized within networks to implement these policies, then they won't be effective. So it's really about organization. Otherwise, you can't go very far. We need to be organized. There are lots of countries where there's not really any lobbying for the SSE. So, for example, in the field of ecology or climate change, there are many more organizations working in a very visible way now on these issues. So this is what we need to strive for in the SSE. It's the key to success, really. And particularly for future generations. We need to think of social and solidarity economy in terms of a transition from this generation to the next generation. We heard from the IPCC's report that the situation ahead of us is extremely concerning in terms of climate change and conflict. So we need to all work together to address this. And there's no panacea for this. Yes, indeed, there is a tool for this, which is cooperatives. It's not always easy to allow cooperatives to work together at global levels. So how do you see the future, Bruno, for the years to come? Well, I think one of the major challenges is to ensure that people use the cooperative model more and more to address their needs, but also the needs of humankind as a whole. And these two aspects are aligned, whether we're talking about environment, equality, peace, food sovereignty, local development, and addressing crises. All of this needs to be done with democratic checks and balances. And cooperatives are deeply rooted in communities, and therefore they're able to gain from local feedback to address the needs and the development of these needs. So we need to really address these needs and to work at global level in order to address these needs, to foster intercooperation, including at the economic level. And this will require greater regulation. But it's important to highlight, as I mentioned earlier, The cooperative movement is particularly prominent in some areas, but it's been growing recently, and particularly two types of cooperatives. Over the past few years, we've seen a lot of cooperative platforms, freelancers, renewable energy stakeholders, etc. And this is a model which is constantly renewing because it's based on the needs of different people. And this must be translated into new economic models that will be based on general standards. So the regulation of cooperatives is particularly important because there's a great deal of interest among youth in starting companies, startups, etc. So what we need to do is to ensure that public policies and regulation is strengthened for cooperatives at global level. And this is the case also for other players of the social economy. So we really need to foster an economy that's made up of different stakeholders, including cooperatives. And this requires specific regulation in order to develop and grow and address these interconnected challenges ahead of us. So now what we really need to do is address these needs and challenges. Now, over the past 2 years, things have become really clear in terms of what we need to do.
Quand je vous écoute, je peux pas m'empêcher.
Okay, thank you. Listening to you, I still remain optimistic because there is a lot of ground ahead of us. You said 1 billion. That means we still have 7 billion to convince. Patricia, you talked about a small percent of people of GDP in the SSE. That means we have a significant majority to go to conquer. And I think really that what's happening is not just the increase of a small closed club, but rather the transformation of models and ideals. What was on the cover of magazines 30 years ago perhaps is much different today. And perhaps in the future, to get young people dreaming, we need to maximize their impact. I think that we all believe that. Before concluding, and before talking about all of the different signings that have taken place during the manifesto, we're going to show you the video from Spanish friends from the General Director for the Social Economy and the social responsibility of companies.
First of all, I would like to thank the French government and in particular the Secretary of State, Olivia Grégoire, for the kind invitation to participate in this new edition of the Pact for Impact. I also wish to highlight the relevance and pertinence of the topic chosen to debate in this global alliance, the international recognition of the social and solidarity economy. This different way of doing business, which puts people and the environment in which it operates at the center, above merely economic interest, is more necessary than ever. The principles and values that govern the social economy are fundamental guides to achieve a fair, sustainable, and inclusive recovery. And especially in the current difficult circumstances, they highlight the value of dialogue and democratic decision-making as opposed to imposition and barbarism. The social economy gives people and communities control over their future, and it does so in key aspects of coexistence, such as employment, health, respect for the environment, care for the most vulnerable people, and resilience to adversity or conflict resolution. We must, therefore, move towards the global strengthening of the social economy through the generation of alliances and its international recognition. As you well know, in Spain, the social economy has a significant weight with a presence in all economic sectors, and which translates into a business fabric made up of some 43,000 companies, which generates 10% of the gross domestic product and 12.5% of jobs. A large part of this important implementation is due, on the one hand, to the legal recognition of the social economy, and on the other, to the generation of firm alliances with the different key agents. In Spain, the first social economy law was approved, which gave a decisive boost to the sector. On March 17th, we will celebrate the 10th anniversary of this law in Madrid with an act of international relevance, to which you all are invited. We also developed the first national strategy to support the social economy, within the framework of which programs and projects were carried out to promote the sector, many of them financed with the European funds. This would not have been possible without the generation of alliances. On the political level, the social economy law was approved unanimously in Congress and Senate, and the different national and regional governments have opted for the social economy. Its relevance to the current coalition government is clear, including the sector in the name of the Ministry of Labour and Social Economy, and developing multiple initiatives. I would like to highlight 3 of them here. The plan to promote the social economy for the generation of an inclusive and sustainable fabric, which will allocate 100 million euros to promote innovative statewide projects. The strategic project for the recovery and economic transformation of the social and care economy, which brings together the projects of different ministries developed under public-private collaboration to promote these 2 sectors. The reactivation of a State Council for the Promotion of the Social Economy, an advisory body of the government in which 16 ministries, the regions, representative organizations of the sector, unions, and independent experts are present. The alliances also move to the international level. We have signed several bilateral memorandums of understanding on the social economy with different countries, including our neighbors Portugal and France. Spain decisively promotes the Monitoring Committee of the Luxembourg Declaration, a group of member states of the European Union committed to the social economy. We chair it for the first time, and also in 2020, without ceasing activities despite the pandemic. At the European level, we are committed to the development of the European Action Plan and to the approval of a Council recommendation on the development of the framework condition of the social economy, which will be promoted under the Spanish presidency at the EU in 2023. We also actively participate in the activities on the social economy of international organizations, such as those organized by the ILO, particularly in the context of the International Labour Conferences, the OECD, or the Union for the Mediterranean, and in other regional forums. And on June 2022, the General Assembly of the International Cooperative Alliance will be held in Seville, in which we count on your presence again. We also maintain excellent relations with the social and solidarity economy in America, an aspect that we want to promote at the Ibero-American Summits on Heads of State and Government. And we believe that the time has come to make a firm commitment to the approval of a UN resolution on the social and solidarity economy and sustainable development. In this regard, I would like to reaffirm Spain's commitment to the work of the Pact for Impact and show our willingness to collaborate in the various international initiatives to support the social economy and solidarity economy at the global level. I wish you a fruitful day. Thank you very much.
Merci. Merci, Maravillas Espin.
Thank you very much, Maravillas Espin. And thank you to our 5 speakers of the second roundtable for that very lively and interesting debate. Thank you to all of the participants, to the ministries, those who joined us online. So I think we had a very comprehensive program. We need to share the Pact for Incest Manifesto, so you should do this. We have 37 signatures from 10 countries, and we will continue working until we cover all of them. Let's continue the dialogue and see you soon.